Hey everyone, it's TheAres1999 here, and today we're celebrating this channel hitting 200 subscribers. To do so, we're going to be counting down ways to pretty much level up monsters, make them more powerful, to give a more interesting challenge to your players. I mean, after all, how many times have you just kept using the same monsters because, you think they're interesting, but, the battles just keep getting repetitive because, the monsters are the same. Here's some ways you can change them around and make those battles more special. First thing is to give the creature more health. Now, I would advise against having this be the only change, as it might just drag out a battle without making it more interesting. That said, having a creature that the players are used to maybe one-shotting, be able to take a few hits, and by extension be able to attack the party a few more times can really shake things up. Next is give the creature some spells. Especially ranged cantrips. Imagine a situation where the players are maybe going up against some grung, and they're being careful not to touch the frogs, but, they're shooting them with arrows or whatever, and then suddenly the frog shoots out in response with a poison spray. Instantly rebalances the battle, so that way they don't have an extreme advantage one way or another. Then, Undead Fortitude. This is just a really fun way to mess with your players. They deal with what seems to be the finishing blow, only to have the monster stand back up, and then once they finally kill it off, have a deadly gas come out vis-a-vis a death burst. Seriously, they'll never look the same way as an undead again. And I just want to reiterate that my point here is to make these battles more interesting, and in addition, force the players to think them through a little bit more. Because eventually just running up and just hitting the creatures with your swords like 12 times every combat, it just gets boring. Have them have to think through what they're doing. Next is have it be helped by weaker minions and/or can call for backup. So let's say the party is supposed to act as exterminators on a fungal colony. They go in to attack a thorny or whatever, but their first hit releases waves of spores that summon some pygmies and some myconoids. Heck, maybe the spores have actually taken over the body of other creatures. Boom, fungal zombie. Great concept. Pair that with the Undead Fortitude for a highly diversified fight scene. For me personally, it's actually just a ton of fun to flip through a bestiary to find different pairings of monsters that could work well together. Honestly, I could probably make an entire video of that. Okay then, note to self. Kobold on a rhinoceros. Find a way to make that work.
Can't touch me, Sheriff. I brought my attack dog with a built-in force field. Well, I brought my dinosaur who eats force field dogs.
Next, more powerful or extra attacks. The party takes out the first few kobolds easily, but then the second wave of them pulls out their short swords, and they each get 2 swings at them per round. Pew. Damage resistance or even damage immunity. If most of the damage comes from, let's say, a wizard's fireball, then having something that will resist it or just be able to ignore that fire will force them to really rethink their battle plans. It's also just a really cool image to just have a creature just, take a fireball to the face, super chill about it, doesn't even bother him, just like, oh really, that was your attack? Let me show you what I can do. Note to self, work on character voices. Okay, number 7, change the damage that the creature's attacks do. Pretty much the inverse of the last thing. For example, maybe they expect it to do fire damage, but it really does electric. Number 8, utilizes special actions like climbing or shoving. Actually, can we just talk for a moment about how useful a shove attack can be if you're playing around a ledge or near dangerous terrain? Seriously, if you're up against like a pit or whatever, just try shoving the monster into it. Okay, next, the creature has special movement abilities, like maybe it can burrow underground. Or maybe, once the party has cornered it, it can teleport away. A dynamic battlefield that it knows how to manipulate. Like, seriously, just having the battlefield be a big empty room where the creatures can just be surrounded by the player characters tends to be boring. Throw some hazards in there, make it change around. Maybe even just have an effect where, like, at the start of each round, poison gas fills it up and they have to make con saves. Next, increase the armor class or proficiency bonus to just make them a bit more powerful that way. A feat like Sentinel or Sharpshooter. Sentinel is actually a really useful feat when properly utilized. Here's 2 great examples. A scrawny wizard with a dagger stops a hulking monk or a speeding barbarian in their tracks. Or 2, You have 2 sentinels right next to each other. Once per round, when one is attacked, the other gets an opportunity attack. Class levels or racial bonuses. Like, seriously, give it like a Barbaric Rage or, a Paladin Smite. Next, perhaps they can steal a player character's weapons. This works easiest if they're just picking up a thrown weapon, but they could easily just, run over and just maybe steal a scythe from the ranger's hands after a strength contest. 15, extra senses like dark vision, blind sense, or tremor sense. Put them in a dark room and hope that the players have torches. Maybe the creature is using the magic weapon that the players want. Let's say that there's this sword they're tracking down that's a Melius item that was wielded by a player character in a previous campaign. For more information on that, you can check out my video for making better magic weapons. They're moving up through a tower to the attic where it's rumored that the weapon is in hiding. And once they get up there, they see that some other creature already has it, and they have to do combat with it. While you're at it, give this thing the Slasher feat and 3 levels as a champion fighter for the improved critical. It'll be nearly unstoppable. Well, hopefully it is actually stoppable. We want our players to win these battles, we just want them to have to work for it. Next, maybe the attacks give debuffs and or lingering damage. For instance, a bite from a snake that can give the poisoned effect and deal poison damage at the start of each turn. And they can, of course, repeat a saving throw to end it each turn while poisoned this way. Maybe a creature can fly around or has a high jump. Pair that with a ranged weapon for, some aerial combat, but they weren't prepared for that.
Oh, oh, oh! But if they attack from the rear, I'm a goner! There! But what about the possibility of an aerial attack?
Give the creature a power source that must be destroyed. Perhaps there's a construct that draws energy from a magic orb that heals it each round. So that way, no matter how many times they try to knock it down, it can keep standing back up until they actually deal with its source of power. And then they can finally finish it off for good once they break the orb. Legendary and or lair actions. Giving a creature the ability to do things on other turns can go a long way to tip the balance in terms of action economy. Also, I didn't really know how to represent this one, so there you go. It's a lair, I guess. In all caps with some periods between each letter, which makes this an acronym. Go ahead and guess below what you think, lair stands for in this context. Could be anything. Lair. Maybe the creature has a special weapon that's not intrinsically magical, like they cover their blade in poison or they set their arrows on fire. That way, even after the players obtain their weapons after the battle, it's not necessarily more powerful, but they could get ideas of how to make themselves more powerful. Like maybe they kill an assassin who still has several vials of poison on him that they can utilize.
Oh, right, the poison for Cusco, the poison chosen specially to kill Cusco, Cusco's poison. That poison?
Yes, that poison.
Got you covered.
Lastly, a creature that can copy the abilities of the player characters. For instance, if the fighter's really good sword fighting, now so is this thing. Or maybe you can just straight up shapeshift into the player characters, and now you have this, somewhat social interaction where they need to figure out which one is the real, fighter. And that's all we really have time for today. If you want to check out some more of my subscriber specials, I did one talking about how to basically play an Alchemist, like from Fullmetal Alchemist in D&D. Another one that was talking about adding the elements of Ready Player One into D&D. And then the other one was a character maker that I programmed in Python. If you want to check out some more from me, I also run 2 D&D podcast campaigns. The first one is the Unofficial SCB D&D game. This is basically a crazy adventure where we're going around a galaxy filled with the different fandoms that the Super Carlin brothers have discussed, and sometimes veering way off track in that regard. But yeah, that's a ton of fun. And then the other one that I do is a more traditional D&D adventure called Enter the Dungeon, where the players are hunting down magical relics known as the planar gems, basically the infinity stones, but each one has a different planar power to it, like mechness or water and stuff like that. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Tell me what you think of it down in the comments. I'll be back soon with another one. Till then, have a great day, and God bless.